Thank you very much for coming. I know it's times we are only looking at what Mr. Trump will be doing or is doing, and especially also in our field, the Middle East. So I'm very happy to speak about something totally different. I mean, everything is linked, and especially in our region, in Middle East, North Africa, as you know. I'm so happy to introduce to you a special guest. Slimane Zeghidour is a writer and journalist. He is editor-in-chief and editorialist of TV5 Monde for 20 years, I think, really long. And before that, he worked as a foreign journalist, as an international reporter worldwide. And your special interests are Latin America, Middle East, Russia, Central Asia, so a lot of huge special interests. And he wrote for outlets like Le Monde, El País, and others. He taught also, or is teaching, I don't know, geopolitics of religions at Sciences Po, and this is very important because I think the rise of religious extremism and religion in general is one of your special interests too. And also at the journalism school of Sorbonne, you were teaching. And he's, of course, the author of several works, also an autobiography, Sur la route t'attend. And what I learned from your extended CV, you worked also as an illustrator. This is was completely new for me. He even wrote comics. He drew comics. And this brought you from Algeria to Paris in '74, where you found your new home. But as I understand, it was a really rough start, in spite of the professional success you had. So there would be, as you saw, so many topics we could have invited Slimane. Even Israel-Palestine. We spoke about Israel-Palestine now. He's a really advocate for peace, I mean, very, very strongly, and knows Israel very well. He told us he even studied Hebrew. But it's absolutely logical that today we speak with him about what happened 70 years ago and the decades after that. You know, it's exactly 70 years ago, on 1st November of 1954, the Algerian independence war started. And I found it absolutely fascinating how the political story of Algeria, and not only Algeria, also France, of course, and many others, is intertwined with Slimane's personal history. As you will hear, but he will tell you, I don't tell you, he spent his early childhood in a French internation camp, where he saw terrible things, but he did not only see terrible things, and this is the point. I was moved especially by one sentence that he told me when we prepared this evening. I quote, "The humanity of the French soldiers who cared for me and educated me while other soldiers tortured and killed Algerians led me, once I became a reporter, to remain attentive to any sign of humanity that always appears, even in the middle of worst horrors." I mean, this is really something. But however, I tell you, it is even more than the history of Slimane or of independent Algeria. It's also a lesson how the history of a small village in the middle of Algeria, well, middle, it's Kabylie is north, if you look at the map, but it's really deep Algerian. How the history of such a village is linked to European history and even beyond. I mean, our history and even beyond. And I am sure, we spoke about it before, this will become one of my standard questions to tickle the brains of my student in university. How come that people from the middle of Algeria, of Kabylie, accompanied our Archduke Ferdinand Maximilian on his way to become Emperor of Mexico in 1864? I mean, the answer is so logic and so simple, but we are not aware of these things. The answer is because it was a project by Napoleon III, no? And Algeria had been annexed in 1848, and the Algerians who went with Maximilian were French soldiers in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
No? So I mean, it's really fascinating. But I don't want to steal time from you and give you the floor. And we also see some pictures, so it's easier to imagine everything. Please, and welcome again. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for all. Thank you. Thank you, Gudrun, for your generous presentation. First of all, I need your indulgence for my English.
It's perfect.
Really, sincerely. So, my own history is interesting because it's interesting by its impact on the reality today. When I was invited a few years ago in Berkeley University, and suddenly I concluded my lecture by an unprepared sentence. Really, I said in my conclusion about the war of independence, I said, we won our independence and we lost our homeland. It's a very paradoxal reality, but it is the reality. Why? Because 60 years after the independence, despite I remain in permanent contact with my native country, right now it is not the same country. Not because the evolution between the ancient world and today, technologically, you have an evolution. Like here, Austria today is not the Austria 16 years ago. But in Algeria, it's a change, most important, it's a change of identity of the country in certain way. So I have to show you, I hope, be able with my English to show you how this transformation occurred. So I start by the beginning. I was born in September 53 in small village in Kabylia. Kabylia is area of mountains with a snow, strong winters. And when I was born in my village, in others' village, no road, no electricity, no school, no radio, nothing. We are, in this time, completely isolated from the world. But we was in France, because Algeria, in the French point of view, nowhere a colony, a possession, colonial possession. 4 years after the conquest of the Algeria in 1834, became juridically a part of the French territory. Algeria is France. It was the slogan of this time. Around my village, in 50 kilometers around my village, we had French cities called Strasbourg, Gravelotte, Waldeck-Rousseau, Cavallo. In each these cities, you have a church, kiosk of music, like a provincial French city. But between these French cities, where we have Algerians lived in these cities. But in our villages, we were completely isolated. The only contact we had with these French cities is contact to buy petrol for light the houses, sugar, and the coffee. All the rest is manufactured in the village, clothes, agriculture. And I talk about this question with any complaint, no complaint, because I consider it's biggest paradox of Algeria. I consider this war, the war of Algeria, the war of independence, like an providential tragedy. Because without this war, I was very ill with tuberculosis. Because the war, we were transferred from, displaced from our villages, because this is villages without roads, without electricity, were the ideal refuge for the fighters for the independence, because the French army cannot go in these villages with the tanks, with the jeeps. So the French army decided in 57, the war started 1st November 54, and the 57, the French army decided to displace people of 16 villages, 2.5 million of population from their villages to camps. And I remember this day when we received the order to leave the village. I have just one picture, a donkey with something, clothes, a donkey on the street with many people. I remember when we arrived in the area, is a valley, in valley, c'est ça? Area, and we, for the first time, we have to live, to share the same space than people from other villages. Because in Kabylia, we knew in our history only two social structures, the tribe and the multinational empire. Carthaginian, Roman, Byzantine, Arab, Ottoman, French. We never had any idea about the nation state. And as you know, the nation state is something very modern for the second half part of the 19th century. So for the first time, we share the same space with other villages that which we perceived these villages with some hostility. And the war created a possibility between us to discover each tribe, discover the other tribe. And this camp was under control of French army, but a very subtle distribution of the military control. The most important soldiers were from Senegal, black people with French uniform. Black people from Senegal and légionnaires, Légion étrangère, soldiers from Hungary, German, and Austrians. In this time, we don't know that. Right now, we have documentation very serious about the military presence. So, the soldiers for repression, for control, were black people and German, Austrian, and Hungarian people. The French soldiers only like doctors and teachers. For this reason, when I was very ill by tuberculosis, I went in the hospital in the camp. I have to show you. This is today. This lake covers the camp where I grew. Look,
this is a dam.
You
no?
cannot tell that this place were a tragical place. Look. And the camp, this is the camp. The white houses is the hospital. My life were preserved in this place without the war, without the camp, without this hospital, nothing. It is very strange perception of the war, of the enemy, you know. After the hospital, we had soldiers as teachers. They learned me to read, to speak in French. And I remember one very short experience in the school. One morning, I was fighting against, I beat an Algerian Kabylian child inside me, and the soldier came and they said to me, no, don't beat him because he is your brother. It was the first patriotic lesson I received in my life by French soldier under the French military uniform, you know. So, in this camp, because the roads around the camp were very dangerous for traffic by cars, the army, and we received here the furnitures, the food by plane. So I saw the plane before I saw a car, a bicyclette. The first French people I saw were the soldiers in uniform. My first contact with modernity is the plane. For this reason, sometimes I like to ironize about our religion. Our religion was the cargo cult. You know the cargo cult? Because all came from by plane. For this, after the roads were opened. So, in the camp, I'm with courage. I learned, I have in school with very human soldiers. And my father and his brother, they, comment on dit un camion?
Truck.
They buy a truck and they open a shop. They open a shop in the camp. And suddenly we were paysans, pour moi des paysans.
Compactor.
Yes, compactor. From
no,
agriculture, very, very Neolithic. We became with a driver with a truck, with a shop. In this shop, believe me, I saw for the first times things like carrots. I never saw before. Carrots, orange, banana, pens. I never saw before, never. I continue my demonstration. These were a progress. I know how it's strange to make this paradox, but it was the reality. More than the French government really understood finally that he forgotten this rural population in Algeria and started and launched the biggest plan for improve the region. And for this place, the project was a lake, a barrage, dam. In this time were the most modern dam in the world with technology, special technology. We were witnesses for miracle technology, you know. After a brutal jumping from the Neolithic to the 20th centuries. And what's happened? All the men of the camp became workers to build the BAM. Fantastic. With salary, with medical control, in place, this place were the most furious place for war in the Algerian war, because many mountains is more easy for a guerrilla to live in these places. But right now we know why French created these camps, 1,000 camps for 2.5 million people. Some Algerians today, with many demagogy, they said, well, yes, French create one Auschwitz, one Treblinka in Algeria. Nothing to do with this, nothing. The camp have had two preoccupations. Tactically, is to isolate the population from the fighters, the National Army of the Liberation. Tactically. Strategically, the camp must be a laboratory where people learned also to understand that the choice of a France is most important the choice of revolution or the war of the independence. For this reason, we had this policy of the soft power. But despite this calcul, I'm absolutely convinced that the sincerity of my teachers and my doctors were completely sincere and absolute. And it's not contradictory. When in the camp also protect us from the horrible character of the war, because the French army used napalm, air strikes with napalm, burned many villages, and used tortures against the Algerian militant. And in the same time, we were preserved from the spectacle of this war. We don't have radio. For example, I never heard, believe me, I never heard the word war. Never. There is no war. And I don't had any impression in this time that we are in war. Why? Because I don't had in this time any term of comparison. I agree with war, with violence. What is the problem? I agree with the soldiers. Yes, why? I don't had an idea about another style of life. It's normally. I was born in this world. Okay, it's normally. Donc, the French soldiers were in psychological action, permanent. France is better than war, than independence. Always. I remember one morning, very early, the German, Austrian, Hungarian, la Légion étrangère, its name is Foreign Legions, soldiers of fortune, I think we say. They came in the morning, they break the doors of our humble houses. They said us, go out with violence. We go out, and after 1 hour after, they leave the houses, our house, and when my fathers came back at the house, they robbed, ils ont volé. They robbed 3 things. One aftershave with a pump. One aftershave. The money of my father and my cape. The brother of my mother, they m'a tissé. Comment on dit tissé? The sister of my mother.
Yeah.
The sister of my mother, elle m'a tissé. Oui. Non, elle m'a tissé a cape. You know the cape?
Tailored.
Un burnous.
Woven.
Yes, woven. You know, I never try it. Test it. This white with wool, natural wool. They rob this.
Was it the Austrians?
No, maybe I launch a call. Really, if I have. No, I don't have, believe me, any complaint. Because I think I'm a miraculous survival. So I don't have any complaint. But I have, if I need some reparation, I need only to see this cape. Really, only. The rest, nothing to do. I remember also one of the most important moments of the French history. It was end of September 58. It was a referendum about the new constitution for the 5th Republic, under which we live under it until now. I remember it was a very cold morning with a strong wind. I had French flag and biscuit. The army gave us French flag and the bonbon. And I saw for the first and the last time my father and my mother to vote for the 5th constitution. Until this moment, we were national French, but not French citizen. You know, the French is the only democratic country, the only one accepted two juridical systems in the same territory of the Republic. You have the citizen and the no citizen. In Algeria, in this time, we had 9 million Algerians. The vocabulary of this time, despite the Republic, were secular. The categories were Muslim, French Muslim, and European French. European and Muslim. A geographic category and a religious category. It's very interesting, this categorization. Not Christian and Muslim, no. European and Muslims. And, and we had two parliaments. First college for 1 million European, we had 60 deputies. For 9 million in second college, the official college name, second college, the same number of deputies, 60. It was the real reason of the war of the independence. Because in their calculation, the colonial ethnography, trying always to divide the population, said, in this country, we have Muslims, but we have Kabylian and Arabs. The Kabylian, the Barbarian, are our cousins. They are descendants of Saint Augustine and Saint Monica. They are our parents. So they improve the education in Kabylia, in the Great Kabylia, more next Algiers. They improve, they open more schools than in Brittany, in France. And they create a religious order, the Pères Blancs, the White Fathers. They speak in Barbarian for catechism. Some families, Barbarian families, were converted. The project is to convert all the Barbarian and let the Arabs outside. And the Kabylian, so the first Algerian, the first Algerian elite were Kabyl. But they returned the French lessons about equality, about liberty, against the French policy in Algeria. We are privileged. Okay. For this reason, the avant-garde of the fighting for the independence was Kabylian also. Because they said, you are not France in Algeria. You don't respect your fundamental values in Algeria. As Algerian, you need us for the war. One of my ancestors, his name was Amar. He fought in Crimea, in Sebastopol. Others with Maximilian. For Maximilian, an Austrian aristocrat in Mexico. After, in the wars of Italy against Prussia, in the Madagascar, in the first worldwide, my great father in the maternal branch, Said, were injured in Verdun. My uncle Mohammed were with the French army in the province, in the debarkment in a province in France, 15 August 44, for the battle in Italy, Monte Cassino. He was injured in this place. But the day of the 8th May 45, in all Europe, in all France, in Algeria, we have the défilé of the victory. The day, fantastic. This day, because the discourse of the Second World War was, we are fighting against Nazism. We are fighting for the freedom for all people. The Algerians, they believe that. One of the Algerian had independence national flag, the green, white, and the crescent and the star red. One policeman saw him and he shot him directly. Puff! He killed him. Suddenly, many years of frustration broke out. And this crowd, Algerian crowd, killed any French people, European, they meet in the street. 110 were innocent people were killed. The reaction. Navy, aviation, tanks, private militias, with terrible repression. They killed in few days maybe 10,000 persons. This moment, the day of the victory, became the day of the divorce between the two systems. And one of the Algerian leaders married with a French woman, very secular, he said, for the French government. Until now, we are middle Algerian, middle France. We want to be 100% French. If you don't accept, we become 100% French, we have to fight to become 100% Algerians. Warning. 10 years after, the war started, the War of Independence. And 7 years after, the independence were complete. I forget to show you how I found these pictures. Mm-hmm. Because for many years, I was really frustrated that the landscape of my childhood disappeared, like an Atlantid. I wrote an article about my village in the review Geo. Mm-hmm. It's German review. And the article were printed in German, Spanish, French, Russian. This article, I wrote a line. I hope if someone were officer, soldier, anybody in this place, if he had photographies, he can give me my childhood. 1 month after, I received a call. Slimane, I were an officer in this place, and I have 80 slides in color for the camp. It was a fantastic victory. Look, this is the camp. This is aerial view of the camp. Mm-hmm. You know the dam here, the project of the dam. Right in the right side, you have the houses of the engineer, French technicals. The camp is behind. The camp is here. The camp is here. It was my second school here. When we came from the camp to the cities with technical French where we have our school, each morning we cross this control, military control. This is the village for the French technicals. Technicals?
Technicians.
Technicians, thank you. You know, the villa, for engineers, for workers, French workers. Look, this is the camp. The population of the camp were 6,500. Right now we know because we have a documentation. 10% of child died. 10%. Between them, 2 brothers of me and 1 sister. My first school. This is Madame Cabanal, I'm here. It is a miracle.
Which year did you get the photos?
Well, this is officer who write me.
And which year?
30 years ago.
So
yes.
You have them a long time.
Yes, yes. But it's, look the school.
Incredible. Beautiful.
This woman, Madame Cabanal, in one morning, she said to my father, she said, Slimane, il a une bonne tête. Slimane have a good head. It was the visa of my life, maybe. Really. This is the second school. I'm here, but I don't know where. One of them is me. But you know what? I thought to go in the French police, the service, the official service of identification, with my photograph is here, they give me with certainly where I am, you know, pour comparer la photo d'avant et maintenant. This is our house. This is the truck of my father.
Incredible.
Big story in our life. The water, this is me. Wow. I'm here. This truck had very like a person for me, because were destroyed during an attack. Look, you have the name Zeghidour is here. The name Zeghidour is here. And it went destroyed in the very battle between the Algerian fighters and the French army. But my father, he let the truck, and the truck were burned. the history when, after the referendum about the Constitution, we became completely French. Like in romance of Buzzati, you know Buzzati, the Italian writer.
Mm-hmm.
French decide to give us the entire citizenship in the moment where it started the negotiation for the independence of the Algeria.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the story of Buzzati, Desert of Tartars. You know the story, Desert of Tartars, the Désert des Tartares. So, 58, 4 years after we were independent. The day of the independence, you have a plane, a little plane, came across the sky of our camp and launch, comment on dit des tracts? Yes, launch
Pamphlets.
papers. And in the place where I went, someone take the papers and tell me, please, can you read what is writing here? I read it. Cessez-le-feu. Mm-hmm. Ceasefire. I don't understand nothing. But I saw my father. He was a man very timid, very reserved. Explodes, and I saw him for the first and last time dancing. Oh. Really, crazy. I was surprised. He dancing. And after I had announced the independence. And it's very funny. 1 week ago in Paris, the Algerian embassy gave the reception for the independence, despite I'm very famous in Paris. They don't invite me. And, when I went in the camp reading the ceasefire, he was not born again, the ambassador. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not invited. There's not the problem. It's just a parenthesis. But the day after, I lived what the psychoanalysts call the scène primitive, the primitive scène, something fundamental. I saw, because the French army lived, suddenly the landscape disappeared completely. Without to say thus, ciao, they disappear. The fighters from the FLN came to the camp. One of them, we knew him. He arrived in the camp and he saw my mother and his sister se disputer.
Quarreling.
He entered in the field of my vision. And I saw him, he's going. He arrived near my mother in the left side, and his sister, he take to his sister, for his sister, go at house. She go. She arrived in my mother, he take the mountain and puff, he give him, he bat him. And immediately I saw my father and then my father, like that. In a French documentary about Algerian war, its diffusion is 10 days ago, 5 hours about Algerian war. Mm-hmm. They choose the final word about the war, this declaration. My commentary is the first public manifestation of the Algerian sovereignty is one officer to beat my mother. Mm. But the documentarist is the great French historian born in Algeria, Benjamin Stora. Mm. He said, no, we have to protect Slimane. And I think he was right, because the Algerian independence is not only this one, this tragical example. It was also something necessary independence. It was something very utile, very glorious. Many people made many things very heroic, despite I hate the violence, including the verbal violence. But these wars were legitimate. It was a triple war, like a Russian doll. It was civil war between French Algerian Muslim Algerians, European and Muslims. In the Algerian, it was a war between Algerians. They chose the French army. In the French army, we had many Algerians, thousands of Algerians. It was also civil war between Algerians. It was also a civil war between French people, because many French people chose the Algerian camp and fight against their own army with Algerians. For the Austrians, the FLN, National Liberation Front, he organized a very sophisticated network in Europe for solidarity of Algerians. This network, known under the name of Porteur de Valise, Porteur de Valise of the FLN. It was so sophisticated that he is until now a part of the academical cursus of all the secret services in the world, in the formation of the secret services. And the FLN organized a special network for Austrian to identify all the Austrian soldiers in Algeria, to contact their family here in Austria, to bring letters from the families, the mothers, the priests, for the soldiers, secretly, and to propose them to desert and to be outside Algeria through Morocco until Austria. They liberate 142 Austrian soldiers. One of them, Wilfried Müller, he chose, after the independence, he chose Algeria. He became Algerian. He was married with an Algerian woman, and he take the name of Mustafa Müller. He's a national great hero in Algeria. And here in Austria, you have Karl Blecha. Last week he was in Algeria like a hero. Yes, I have a photo from him. Yes, look, we come to the photo.
You mean in the celebrations of?
Yes, he was invited. Me, I was not invited, but he was invited.
Who you mean now invited?
By Algerian government, Karl Blecha.
But he's dead. No.
No. Karl Blecha.
No, Karl Blecha.
No, he's alive.
Sorry.
91 years alive in good health also. Look, we had the second war between 92 and the 2000 civil war between Algerians. During 8 years, it was impossible for me to back to Algeria. I have one sister, she was married, I can't go. I returned for the first time in 2012. And I discovered my village like that. This is the house where I was born. Destroyed by a strike. This is the house of my uncle, Mohammed, who was fighted in Monte Cassino. The house of my uncle Said. My house where I was born. My maternal grandfather, he were buried in Verdun. My great mother and my first step in journalism is likewise illustrator, comics. Yes, I have 17. After I made gravure, yes. After the independence, we went. I have how many time?
No time at all, but
no.
we'll let you speak. No.
I have to accelerate.
Yeah, you have.
Now, after the independence, we returned in our village. It was spring day. It was really an enchantment. The snow in the mountains, red flowers in all the landscape, and the green of the nature, the colors of the flag. All the nature became an Algerian flag, people said in this time. Until even the sun was Algerian in this war. But we arrived in the village, the houses were in place, but without doors, without windows. The army destroyed the doors and the windows. But we were so happy to become in our village. But it's not the same thing. When you want to find the solution for your problem in the past, no more solution, because we were transformed. How we were transformed? We lost the contact with agriculture. Finished. Terminé. We had in the hospital, in the village, no hospital. We went in the school. In the village, no school. So it was.
And how old were you when you went back to the village? You were.
Back to the village.
How old? 12, 13?
No, me.
Yes.
9.
So small.
In March 62.
62. Yes, it's true. 53, you are born 62.
62.
Independent. Yeah.
We leave the camp, we back to the village. But we are in March. And in September, my father told, next September, Slimane and his sister, in which school they have to go? No school. If we have problem, which hospital? No hospital. And the same time, any officer came to see us, to say to us, keep quiet, we have to help you now. Why? Because a new war, the war of the power, started between Algerian factions. They forget us, completely forget us. We back not in our village, no. We lived the world. For something is village only, despite our love for the place. More tragical, one older man went to Algiers for job. My father the first. We went, only me and one uncle, the youngest uncle, brother of my father. We remain in the village. And one day, he went in the other village, in other side of the, we have landscape like that and like that. Here, a river. We are here, the other village is here. He goes in his village. I remember him going across the river and escalate the landscape for the village. The day after, I suis descendu in the river, and I saw a man. He told me, "You are Zeghidour?" Zeghidour? I said, "Yes." He told me, "Oh, I'm sorry. You have to say that family Zeghidour, that Larbi, his name is Larbi, was killed." And I remember I go from the river to the house like that, like a bird. And I said to my grandmother, Uncle Larbi is killed. And I remember her going, running to the river, and with his cry, she went, and after no inquiry, no report, nothing, he was killed. And the night after, it's in this time we had big moon, white moon. And at night, I don't remember if my cousin or my mothers tell me, please look the shadow of the mountains down. Try to screw it if you see some people coming. And in my 9 years old, I was assigned to control if we have to see people coming for what? For to kill us. 9 years, 2 weeks or 3 after the independence. We left the village to Algiers. In Algiers, population in my country, I discovered for the first time I saw the sea, a car, a building, houses. For the first time in my life, I saw a man fat. it was something completely strange for me. I never saw a person fat. It was very extraordinary for me. And the Algerians, from Algiers, child were terrible against my accent, my appearance. They told me, you are a plook, you know. And I said, and I thought, yes, you're right. But I'm learning to be better. And I think it's a paradox, because I believe their criticals, I was preserved against their, because I considered their evaluation as like I'm a plook, is a step of my life only. It's not my nature. It's just in this moment, yes, I am plook. Why not? But I am learning. And when I went in the school, the difference appeared. I was the first in geography, in history, but the last in mathematics. The last in mathematics. And
I feel
okay, I stop here. Okay, I want this is important. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
In 70, I went in the first Algerian review for comics because I drawed. You saw my draws. But the revolution is, in this time, Algiers were the Mecca of the revolutionaries. You have all the Brazilian opposition, Chilean, Argentinian, Canadian, Irish, from Angola, from Mozambique, in Algiers. And Algiers, I think, was one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world. You know my history, from a village isolated, to a camp closed, to a village with nothing, after to in the suburb of Algiers, marginalized. Suddenly I'm with the best intellectuals from Brazil, Argentina, Chile. I started to learn Portuguese, discovered the Latin American music.
Yeah, also culturally, no? So
yes.
many things. Yeah.
Learned to dance.
Incredible.
Salsa, samba, rumba, cha-cha-cha, cumbia, calypso. Fantastic. My father dancing only one day, maybe one, 5 minutes. I started for many years for dancing. And I learned many, many things with this Brazilian, and by chance, and I finish with this consideration, by chance, I had many mentors, because when you have 20 years, you met one person had 20, 30, 40 years more than you. The risk is he become your guru. You cannot improve your personality. But I met many mentors. One, it was Enrique Abranches. He was white Portuguese, shows the cause of Angola, black people. And they learned me how you make, comment raconter une histoire.
To tell a story. Yeah.
To tell a story.
You are good
yes.
in telling stories.
Fantastic. Fantastic. He learned me in 1 week. Fantastic. He said me, in the first picture, people must understand in which place, in one time, in which period your story starts. The first picture. After with an Argentinian, yes, I learned. He told me, You know, he make me discover the biblical archaeology, the archaeology of the ancient Orient. He told me we have with the archaeology of Sumerian, Babylonian, Canaanian, we have the landscape of the Bible world. Fantastic. For this reason, I have passion for the history of the religion and became agnostic at the same time.
Yeah.
I stop here. Okay.
Thank you very much.
No, the pictures. When the European Union started, Europe had more territories in Africa than in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Black Panthers, a group of American black opposition in Algeria. Karl Blecha is here in Morocco with Algerians. Had here a great movement of the solidarity with Algerians in the Austrian newspapers. His Austrian or German drawers. This is Karl Blecha in June, last June, with the Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs. This is my gravure.
Wow.
The most important risk for Algeria is the immigration from the south. This problem was 2,000 years ago. You have this Roman mosaic in Algeria. You have black people like illegal immigrants. Look, really.
But we don't start in 2,000 years now.
2,000. Before, it was a problem. This is, my village is here.
Wow. This is really...
And this is...
Like Tyrol.
I don't visited my village. 12 years, no visit. But this place in the village, you know, the shadow of trees on the yellow herbs, nothing under the sun gives me more serenity than this picture. Finish. Thank you.
It's really beautiful. No, leave it.
Thank you.